Before sunrise, the lobby of Harrington Global is empty, silent, cold, and echoing like a cathedral built for money. And in the center of that endless marble floor, a lone janitor moves slowly, carefully, like he's polishing more than just stone. Marcus Hill, black, middle-aged, quiet, a man most people walk past without seeing. But today, someone will notice him. For the wrong reason. The elevator doors glide open with a soft hiss. And out steps Lucas Harrington, the billionaire with a reputation sharper than his tailored suit. Two assistants trail behind him, carrying tablets, charts, coffee, everything except humility. Lucas stops walking the second he spots Marcus. A smirk curls onto his mouth, the kind of smirk rich men wear when they think the world belongs to them. "Well, look at that," he says loudly, making sure his people hear. "Our janitor's up early. Tell me, man, got any stock tips for me today?" The assistants chuckle immediately, but the sound dies fast. Because Marcus doesn't laugh, doesn't lower his head, doesn't mumble an apology. He simply straightens his back and looks Lucas in the eyes with a calm, unshakable stillness. Then he speaks quietly, almost gently. "You might want to check the overnight futures." The lobby freezes. Lucas's smile falters. His assistants stare, confused. How does a janitor know that term? How does he say it, like he understands more than he should? Lucas steps closer, irritated. "What did you say?" Marcus doesn't blink. Just something worth watching. The billionaire's jaw tightens. He hates the tone calm, confident, unbothered. A tone he only hears from analysts, traders, people who spent decades studying markets. Not from a man holding a mop. For a moment, Lucas doesn't know why. But he suddenly feels small. Threatened. Exposed. Marcus turns back to his work, quietly pushing the mop across the marble. But Lucas can't move. Something about the man feels wrong. Or worse, feels right. A janitor shouldn't speak like that. A janitor shouldn't know anything he doesn't. A janitor shouldn't make him feel this, unsettled. But Marcus doesn't look back. Doesn't explain himself. Doesn't say another word. And as Lucas stares after him, angry, confused, and strangely shaken, one thing becomes painfully clear, asterisk. What the billionaire didn't know would change everything. The building awakens slowly, lights flickering on floor by floor as employees begin their morning routines. But even as the hallways fill with chatter, footsteps, and the usual corporate rush, Marcus moves quietly through it all, almost invisible by design. He walks the same route every morning. Third floor hallway, conference wing, executive lobby. Each step calm and measured, as if routine is the only thing keeping him grounded. Most people pass him without a second glance. Some offer rushed nods. A few toss forced smiles. But nobody truly sees him. Nobody except Eddie, the security guard, who always greets him like family. "Morning, Marcus," Eddie says from his desk. Marcus nods with a gentle smile. "Morning, how's the little one?" Eddie grins proudly as he talks about his newborn daughter. Marcus listens quietly, genuinely, offering a few thoughtful words before returning to his cart. He never rushes these small interactions. They're the only human warmth he lets himself feel. Yet beneath that calm exterior, Marcus carries a weight he tells no one about. A heaviness behind his eyes, a distant sadness in the way he sometimes stops in the hallway as if remembering something painful. He opens his locker in the janitorial room. Inside is nothing but a neatly folded uniform, a faded financial newspaper clipping, and a child's drawing taped to the door. Crayon lines, bright colors, a shaky little heart drawn over a stick figure hugging a taller one. "You're the smartest man I know, Dad." Marcus touches the drawing for just a moment, a ritual he does every morning, then closes the locker gently, almost reverently, before heading out again. Across the building, Lucas Harrington enters his glass-walled kingdom like a storm. Assistants scramble. Phones ring. Everyone tightens up the moment he arrives. Lucas thrives on pressure, loves being the center of gravity in every room. He speaks in commands, not sentences. He expects obedience, not questions. And above all, he believes wealth is proof of superiority. That if he's on top, everyone else must naturally belong below him. He steps into his office, overlooking the entire city. To him, this view means power, control, validation. But what he doesn't notice is how his employees look at the floor when he speaks. How they try not to breathe too loudly. How their fear doesn't motivate excellence. It suffocates it. Naomi Nguyen sits at her desk 2 floors below. She's one of Lucas's senior analysts. Quiet, brilliant, and vastly underappreciated. She studies market patterns with a precision that borders on instinct. But Lucas barely acknowledges her, except when he needs someone to blame. Still, she keeps working. Not for recognition, but because she believes numbers tell stories people refuse to see. And lately, those numbers have been screaming. Volatility creeping upward. Global markets tightening. Supply chains glitching. Warning signs flashing. But Lucas ignored her last report. Said she was overreacting. Said panic is for amateurs. Naomi knows better. Something is brewing. And it isn't small. Meanwhile, Marcus pushes his cart past the giant TV screen mounted in the lobby. Stock tickers crawl across the bottom. Charts flash. Financial anchors speak rapidly. Most people don't even look. But Marcus slows down. Just for a second, eyes narrowing thoughtfully at the numbers. He sees something subtle, something that would slip past almost anyone else. A tremor in the market. A shift in sentiment. A silent warning. He pulls out his small notebook, the one he always keeps tucked into his pocket, and writes a quick note in calm, neat handwriting. Volatility rising. Watch supply chains. Hedge exposure miscalculated. He tucks the notebook away before anyone can notice. Because nobody needs to know, he understands these numbers. Nobody needs to know what he sees. He's just a janitor. And that's exactly how he wants it. At least, that's what he tells himself. But something about Lucas's mocking earlier lingers in his mind. Not because it hurt. Marcus has endured far worse. But because it reminded him why he left the world he once lived in. A world where arrogance destroyed friendships. A world where greed burned bridges. A world where one wrong call cost him everything, including the person he loved most. Cleaning floors is simpler, quieter, safer. He finishes mopping the executive lobby. As he turns to leave, Naomi passes by holding a stack of reports. She almost bumps into him. "Oh, sorry," she mutters, flustered. Marcus nods politely. "No problem." But she pauses, looks back at him. Something about the calm intelligence in his eyes catches her off guard. Like he knows something she doesn't. Like he's carrying stories he'll never tell. She shakes it off and hurries into the conference room. Inside, Lucas begins his morning briefing. Loud, commanding, dismissive. Marcus wipes the last streak off a glass door and quietly slips out of the room, unnoticed. To everyone around him, he's just part of the background. A shadow in a uniform. A man whose value is measured only by how shiny the floors look. But Marcus knows that titles lie. Appearances deceive. And sometimes the most powerful mind in the building is the one nobody ever thinks to look at. As Lucas barks orders in the conference room, as analysts scramble, as investors grow nervous across the city, Marcus walks down the hallway in silence, pushing his cart, lost in thought. He knows what's coming. He's seen this pattern before, and he knows exactly how bad it will get. But he also knows something else. Someone like Lucas Harrington. Someone blinded by ego. Someone who mocks instead of listens. People like that always learn their lesson eventually. One way or another. The day after Marcus's quiet warning, the building feels different. Tighter, more restless, like something is about to snap. Lucas Harrington storms through the doors with a pace that makes employees flatten themselves against the walls. His jaw is clenched. His eyes are sharp and angry. He moves like a man already in a fight he can't win, but refuses to admit it. His phone buzzes nonstop. Board members, investors, analysts, everyone demanding answers. Overnight futures dipped harder than anyone predicted. Except one man. The janitor. The one Lucas mocked. The thought burns Lucas's ego like acid. He steps into the elevator, fists tight at his sides, and snaps at his assistants without even looking at them. Marcus is in the lobby again, wiping down the railing when Lucas passes by. He doesn't look up, doesn't speak, doesn't acknowledge the billionaire's existence. But Lucas slows, just a fraction, as if the presence of this quiet man irritates a nerve he didn't know he had. Marcus senses him pause but keeps working. That restraint only aggravates Lucas more. He huffs and marches straight to the top floor. Inside his panoramic office, Lucas slams his briefcase down and stares at the city spread beneath him. Skyscrapers, highways, the markets he once believed he controlled. He's used to feeling powerful here, untouchable. But today, an uncomfortable truth gnaws at him. Someone might have seen something he didn't. Someone who shouldn't. Downstairs, Marcus moves from hallway to hallway, working in rhythm, not knowing, or perhaps not caring, how much his quiet insight has shaken the man upstairs. Naomi Nguyen sits at her desk, reviewing the latest data. Futures have dipped. Volatility is climbing. 3 of the warning signs she flagged last week are now confirmed. She doesn't say it out loud, but if the trend continues, the company could be exposed in several key sectors, including the one Lucas insisted was too strong to fail. She glances up, remembering Marcus's simple warning yesterday. Check the overnight futures. How did he know? Why would a janitor watch market trends that closely? No one in her department caught the shift until late last night. A question forms quietly in her mind. Is he just observant, or is he someone else entirely? But before she can think deeper, Lucas's voice erupts from his office. His assistant rushes in. Executives scatter. The tension spreads like ripples through the entire floor. Moments later, Lucas storms out of his office and heads straight to the corridor overlooking the lobby. He looks down, and there Marcus is. Calm, still cleaning, mind on his work. Lucas's pride can't take it. He descends the stairs with force, ignoring the elevator. Executives watch him go and whisper nervously. When he reaches the lobby, he approaches Marcus with a theatrical confidence, projecting superiority in every step. People nearby slow down, sensing a confrontation. Lucas speaks loudly enough for everyone to hear. So, janitor, looks like your tip was right, futures dropped. Marcus stops wiping the rail and turns his head slightly, but not fully toward him. His voice is steady. Not a tip, just an observation. Lucas feels the words hit him like a push. Observation, he repeats sharply. Employees nearby glance up. Marcus returns to cleaning, making Lucas chase the moment. It was fairly obvious, Marcus adds quietly. His tone is simple, factual. But Lucas hears it as a challenge. A sting. A bruise to his authority. A billionaire with a fragile ego is a dangerous thing. Lucas laughs, loud, fake, attention-grabbing. Oh, really? Obvious. You think mopping floors qualifies you to analyze international markets. A few assistants try to laugh along with him, but their voices lack spine. They aren't sure what's happening, but they feel the power imbalance shifting. Marcus doesn't laugh, doesn't react, doesn't dignify the insult. He sets the cloth down gently. You asked me a question, he replies calmly. I answered. Lucas goes quiet for a split second, surprised by the composure. He expected fear. apology, submission. Instead, he feels like he's talking to someone who isn't intimidated by him at all. And that scares him more than he'll ever admit. He steps closer, lowering his voice but sharpening it. Tell you what, Lucas says. Since you're apparently a market expert, why don't you stand up and explain to all these people where our stock is going next? He gestures dramatically at the nearby employees. Interns, analysts, receptionists. Anyone within earshot. People freeze. This is no longer banter. This is humiliation. A public challenge. One designed to make Marcus small. Marcus slowly straightens up. His mop stands beside him like a quiet witness. He looks Lucas in the eyes for the first time. Really looks. And something passes between them. Not defiance. Not arrogance. Just truth. And it unsettles Lucas so deeply he feels his chest tighten. Marcus speaks softly, but everyone hears him. Your company is exposed in 3 sectors, and you don't have enough hedges to protect them. The lobby goes silent. No snickering. No awkward laughter. Just stunned stillness. Naomi is on the stairs, watching it unfold. Her eyes widen. That's exactly what her unreleased report said. Word for word. Lucas stares at Marcus, completely thrown. He tries to laugh it off. It's easy to guess, anyone with Google. But Marcus interrupts, not rudely, just plainly. You're also carrying too much debt in foreign contracts. The dollar's strength works against you right now. Executives nearby exchange glances. Only someone deeply knowledgeable or highly experienced would know that. Naomi's breath catches. This man isn't guessing. He knows. Marcus continues, tone still calm, still steady. And if you don't adjust your position before the end of the quarter, the losses will hit harder than you expect. Lucas freezes. Every word feels like a blade slipping under his armor. Because the worst part isn't that Marcus is speaking out of turn. The worst part is that he's right. Every point, every detail, every insight, dead on. Naomi whispers to herself. Who is he? Lucas feels heat rising up his neck. Humiliation. Confusion. Fear. Marcus wipes his hands on his cloth and simply says, Excuse me, I need to get back to work. He turns away and pushes his cart down the hall. Not victorious. Not smug. Just done with the conversation. But Lucas stands frozen in the middle of the lobby, humiliated in front of his own employees. And for a man who sees himself as a god in his own building, that humiliation becomes something far worse. Obsession. Marcus walked through the 32nd floor like a ghost slipping through the living. Nobody asked why the janitor was in a restricted zone. Nobody questioned why he moved with quiet purpose. People only questioned when someone demanded answers, and Marcus was the one person who never demanded anything. He reached the portfolio war room, 6 massive screens, all glowing with red numbers, falling arrows, global indices, and chaos. He stared at the screens like a mathematician reading poetry. His eyes traced patterns that no junior analyst could even recognize as patterns. His mind stitched together volatility, leverage flows, liquidity drops, reading the fractures in the economy like cracks in a windshield. He tapped a key on the control dashboard. The system instantly rejected the input. Access DNID. He tried again. Access DNID. He sighed, not impatient, resigned. Of course, he whispered to himself, still locked out. He'd created the original systems. He could read them, predict them, but he couldn't touch them. Not anymore. He pulled a small notebook from his pocket. Worn, edges softened with years, pages filled with dense handwriting and scribbles that looked chaotic, but were actually equations disguised as madness. He flipped to a page dated 2 weeks ago. The exact pattern now hitting the global market. He had predicted it. Down to the hour. He closed the notebook when footsteps approached. 2 senior analysts entered the room mid-argument, too caught up in panic to notice him. We can't halt positions. The automation already executed overnight trades. But the algorithm shouldn't be buying volatility spikes. This looks like a manual override. They froze when they finally noticed Marcus. One narrowed her eyes. Why is the janitor in the war room? The other shrugged. No idea, maybe maintenance. Marcus offered a faint smile. Just passing through. They exchanged confused looks but rushed past him, too desperate to care. They pulled up position sheets, and Marcus watched them with the patience of someone who knew panic never solved anything. Screens flashed as the analysts typed frantically. We're exposed on all sides. Derivatives are cascading. We can't contact Lucas, he's in a meeting. They were drowning in numbers they didn't understand. And Marcus quietly whispered the solution under his breath, not to them, just to himself. Your hedges are mismatched. Realign the short legs, cover the long volatility, pull liquidity from the Asia basket and move it to the European buffer before the market opens. The analysts kept panicking, unaware the man behind them had just saved the company. Someone else, however, had heard. A voice from the doorway. Cold. Sharp. You. Marcus turned. Lucas Harrington was standing there, staring at him with narrowed, unreadable eyes. The analysts jumped to attention, terrified. Sir, market positions, massive volatility, were trying to contain it. Lucas raised a hand. They fell silent immediately. He stepped closer to Marcus. This morning, Lucas said slowly, you told me to watch the futures. Marcus said nothing, he simply waited. Lucas's voice dropped even lower. And you knew exactly what would happen, didn't you? Still, Marcus said nothing. Lucas glanced at the notebook in Marcus's hand. Give me that. Marcus slid it into his pocket instead. No, he said calmly. The analysts inhaled sharply. Nobody told Lucas Harrington no. Lucas's jaw tightened. Explain yourself. Marcus shook his head softly. You're asking the wrong question. Is that so? Lucas snapped. Then what's the right question? Marcus met his glare without fear. The question isn't why I know. The question is why your top analysts don't. A long, heavy silence filled the room. The analysts looked insulted, but also quietly terrified that he might be right. Lucas studied Marcus's face like he was seeing him for the first time. His voice dropped into a whisper meant only for Marcus. Who are you? Marcus didn't blink. Someone trying to keep this company alive. Lucas's expression flickered. Anger, confusion, curiosity, all tangled together. Then an assistant rushed in, breathless. Sir, the board wants an emergency update. They need you upstairs now. Lucas didn't look away from Marcus. He spoke without breaking eye contact. Bring him too. The assistant blinked. Sir, him. Yes, Lucas's tone was unmistakable. Him. Marcus didn't react, he simply followed. They stepped into a private elevator, the kind reserved for people who could buy countries. The doors slid shut, sealing them together. Lucas finally spoke again. You're going to tell me the truth. Marcus replied with quiet finality. No, Lucas, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. The elevator ascended in total silence. When the doors opened, they walked into the board's strategy room. 12 executives already seated, faces pale with fear, charts glowing red behind them. Every pair of eyes turned to Lucas. Then slowly to Marcus. One board member frowned. Why is the janitor here? Another whispered, is he some kind of witness? Lucas answered coldly. He's the only person in this building who saw this crash coming. Shock rippled through the room. Marcus remained still, hands folded calmly in front of him, like he'd been in boardrooms all his life. Lucas gestured at the main screen. Tell them, he ordered quietly. Tell them what you told me. Marcus's eyes scanned the charts once more. He didn't look nervous. Didn't look out of place. He spoke in the same calm, even tone he used while mopping floors. You're exposed, Marcus began. Deeply, critically, and you don't even see where the bleed is coming from. Executives leaned forward, hanging on his words. Your models are outdated, he continued. Your volatility hedges are mismatched. Your algorithms are misreading structural weakness as temporary fluctuation. And most importantly, your monitoring system is ignoring the one signal that matters. He stepped toward the screen and tapped a cluster of numbers. This is the beginning of a liquidity fracture. The board stared blankly. Marcus sighed softly, then broke it down in simple words. Think of it like a dam with a crack. The pressure builds, but the sensors are measuring the wrong side. Understanding spread slowly. Lucas watched Marcus with a growing sense of something he hated more than anything: respect. Marcus finished calmly. If you act now, you survive. If you don't, you'll lose billions before lunch. Silence swallowed the room. Then the oldest board member whispered, Who trained you? Marcus answered without hesitation. No one in this building. The board looked to Lucas. They needed a decision. Finally, Lucas spoke. Do exactly what he says. Executives scrambled into action. Marcus didn't smile. He simply stepped back, hands behind his back, watching them execute the strategy he had predicted in his notebook weeks ago. And in that moment, for the first time in the building's history, a janitor was running the financial heart of Harrington Global. Lucas stared at him with a mixture of awe and fear. Something was different about this man. Something dangerous. Something powerful. And Lucas still didn't know if Marcus Hill was the company's salvation or its biggest threat. The storm of panic that swept through the boardroom slowly transformed into controlled chaos. Screens flickered. Phones rang nonstop. Analysts ran back and forth carrying printouts that meant nothing compared to the man standing quietly near the window. Marcus, hands clasped behind him, watching the city below wake up unaware it was minutes away from a financial earthquake. Lucas barked orders he barely understood. Executives repeated instructions they didn't fully grasp. But every move they made was Marcus's move. He had become the invisible conductor behind an orchestra that didn't know it was playing his symphony. Lucas approached him, trying to mask the frustration in his voice. Tell me this straight, he demanded. Are we stabilizing or falling apart? Marcus didn't turn from the window. That depends, he said softly, on whether they follow instructions precisely. Lucas bristled. I'm the one giving instructions. A faint smile touched Marcus's lips. You're repeating mine. Lucas opened his mouth to fire back, then closed it. Because he knew it was true. He hated the feeling. Hated depending on a man he barely understood. Hated not being the smartest person in the room. But more than anything, he hated that Marcus wasn't intimidated by him. Nobody looked Lucas Harrington in the eye for more than a second. But Marcus held his gaze like it was nothing. Before Lucas could speak again, an analyst rushed in with a tablet. Sir, market volatility just tripled. Europe is panicking. Lucas grabbed the tablet, scrolling through data he couldn't decode fast enough. Marcus finally turned from the window. Did you reweight the Asian liquidity buffer? He asked calmly. The analyst froze. No, Marcus finished for him. You didn't. He stepped forward, tapped a few numbers on the analyst's screen. Move 12%, now, before the next volatility wave hits. The analyst sprinted out to execute the command. Lucas stared at Marcus. How are you doing this? He whispered. How do you know every detail without seeing the inside systems? Marcus folded his hands again. Because I helped design the logic the system is built on, he said quietly. Lucas's breath caught. You're lying. Marcus didn't look like a liar. He looked like a man who had lived with a truth nobody cared to ask about. Believe what you want, Marcus said, voice low and steady. It won't change the outcome. Lucas stepped closer, jaw tightening. You clean floors, you take out trash. You're not some hidden genius. People don't just fall from the sky with knowledge like this. Marcus met his stare again. No, he said, they fall from higher places. Before Lucas could react, another executive burst through the door. "Sir, the media is catching on. They're reporting a possible liquidity crisis if we don't release a stabilizing statement soon." Lucas cut him off. "Draft something, I'll approve it." Marcus spoke before the executive could leave. "No press releases yet." Lucas whipped around. "Excuse me." "If you speak now," Marcus said evenly, "you'll trigger a run on your international partners. They're watching your silence to decide if you're scared." Lucas frowned deeply. "So what do we do? Say nothing." "For now," Marcus replied, "stabilize quietly." Lucas stared at him, completely conflicted. "You're asking me to trust a janitor with the fate of my company." Marcus didn't flinch. "No, I'm asking you to do what keeps the company alive." Lucas turned away, hands shaking slightly, pretending it was anger and not fear. Executives whispered among themselves, eyeing Marcus with confusion and growing respect. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't scrambling. He wasn't even sweating. He stood like a man who'd already seen the end of this crisis and knew the exact moves to reach it. After a moment, Lucas approached him again. "What's your background?" he asked bluntly. "Who trained you?" Marcus's answer was almost a whisper. "Life." Lucas exhaled sharply. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get today." Before Lucas could push further, the main screen flashed. "Market opening bell, 60 seconds." The countdown sent a wave of dread through the room. Papers rustled. Feet shuffled. Breaths tightened. But Marcus stepped forward, suddenly standing in front of the main screen. "I need full position access," he said. A junior tech blinked at him. "Sir, you don't have clearance." Lucas hesitated. Giving a janitor access to the firm's trading core was insanity. A violation of every policy. A potential disaster. But the board members looked at Lucas with pleading eyes. He was out of time. Marcus added quietly, "Every second you hesitate, the loss grows." Lucas swallowed hard. And for the first time in his career, he trusted someone he couldn't control. "Give him access." The tech looked stunned. "Sir, that's—" "Do it," Lucas snapped. The tech typed rapidly, unlocking a special-level terminal station. Marcus stepped behind it. His posture changed, not visibly but in energy. In presence, he wasn't a janitor at that console. He was something else. Something the room felt but couldn't name. The countdown ticked. 10, 9, 8, 7. Marcus placed his fingers on the keys. "Begin internal stabilization sequence," he murmured. 6, 5. Shift short vol positions. 4. Neutralize European derivatives. 3. Reallocate liquidity buffers. 2. Prepare emergency hedges. 1. Execute. The market opened. A violent wave of red numbers crashed across the screens. Executives gasped. Lucas stepped closer, breath caught in his throat. Marcus didn't blink. His fingers moved with absolute certainty, calm, steady, precise. Like he was playing an instrument, only he knew how to control. Under his breath, he whispered calculations, strings of numbers that nobody else could possibly track. The room watched, frozen, as the chaos on the screen slowly, subtly began to shift. The steep downward lines softened. The spikes stabilized. Red flickers turned orange. One executive whispered, trembling, "He's actually doing it." Another murmured, "He's stabilizing the whole board." Lucas couldn't look away. He felt his heartbeat pounding against his ribs. "Who are you?" he whispered again. Not angry. Not demanding. Just awestruck. Marcus didn't answer. He simply pressed one final key. And the screens flashed blue. Stabilization achieved. Net loss contained. Liquidity fracture controlled. The room erupted in relieved gasps. Executives slumped in their seats. A few actually clapped their hands over their mouths, close to tears. Lucas turned to Marcus slowly, like a man seeing the sun rise for the first time. "You," he breathed, voice cracking slightly. "You just saved billions." Marcus stepped back from the console, back into the silent, composed posture of a man who preferred shadows to spotlights. "I bought you time," he corrected gently. "Not safety." Lucas stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means the crisis isn't over," Marcus said. "It's just beginning." But before Lucas could ask him to explain, the door burst open. A woman stepped inside. Sharp suit, sharp eyes, an energy that filled the room instantly. Everyone turned. "Who are you?" Lucas asked. She held up a badge. "Sarah Caldwell, U.S. Treasury Financial Crimes Division." Her eyes locked onto Marcus. "And I'm here for him." The room fell silent. Every executive froze. Even Lucas, usually quick with a demand or accusation, could only stare at the badge gleaming in the woman's hand. Marcus didn't move, didn't blink, didn't flinch the way a guilty man should. Sarah Caldwell stepped closer, her stare sharp and unyielding. "Marcus Hill," she said, "you need to come with me." Executives exchanged panicked looks. Not because they cared about Marcus, most still didn't know his last name, but because a federal agent storming into their crisis room meant something far worse. This wasn't just a market incident. This was becoming a federal event. Lucas stepped forward. "What is this he just saved?" She cut him off cleanly. "This conversation doesn't concern you, yet." The word "yet" hit the room like a warning. Lucas bristled, but something about her tone kept him from pushing back. Instead, his eyes drifted to Marcus again. The man looked calm. Too calm, like he'd been expecting this. Sarah studied him, waiting for a reaction. But Marcus only said, "You're late." Executives gasped. Sarah's jaw flexed, but she didn't deny it. Lucas's throat tightened. "You two know each other." Marcus didn't answer. Sarah did. "I've been tracking him for 18 months. Executives stepped back subconsciously, as if Marcus had suddenly become radioactive. Lucas tried to reposition himself, standing between her and Marcus. "Tracking him for what exactly?" "For saving you," she replied. The room blinked in confusion. Lucas frowned. "That makes no sense." Sarah looked around at the executives. "Do any of you even know who this man is?" Silence. Most shook their heads. Others simply stared at the floor, ashamed they'd never cared enough to ask. Sarah turned toward Marcus. "You used to work for the Treasury, didn't you?" Marcus gave a single nod. Lucas felt the ground shift beneath him. "You worked at the Treasury?" he repeated, stunned. Marcus finally spoke. "I was an analyst." Sarah stepped forward. "He wasn't just an analyst. He was the backbone of a major oversight division. Fraud detection, market manipulation, high-level risk modeling. He supervised systems you people rely on without realizing it." Executives began whispering fiercely, piecing together the impossible truth. Lucas's eyes widened slowly. "But then why are you mopping floors?" Marcus looked at him, expression unreadable. "Because the truth has a price." Sarah took a deep breath. 12 years ago he exposed someone powerful, too powerful. He was silenced, his position erased, his clearance revoked. Lucas stared at Marcus, stunned. "You were blacklisted." Marcus didn't correct him. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room understood. Lucas swallowed. "You lost everything." Marcus paused, then nodded once. A quiet heaviness filled the air, a weight that settled deep in Lucas's chest. He had mocked this man, humiliated him, dismissed him as nothing. But Marcus had lived a life Lucas couldn't even imagine carrying. Sarah continued. "When we got early reports of unusual pre-market signals last night, I knew he'd see it too, and I knew he'd come here." Lucas frowned. Why here? Marcus answered softly. Because your firm was the epicenter. Executives gasped. Sarah nodded. He's been tracking this pattern for months. Shadow trades, synthetic positions linked to hidden shell funds. Whoever did this wasn't just trying to profit, they were trying to destabilize a market sector. Lucas's voice dropped. A deliberate attack. A sophisticated one. Marcus stepped forward. And they used your firm as a channel. Lucas felt his heart stop. My firms who would. Sarah held up a hand. Questions later, right now we need him. Lucas instinctively positioned himself protectively, blocking her path. You're not taking him. Sarah raised an eyebrow. That's not your decision. He's the only reason we survived the morning. If he leaves now, we're blind. Sarah stepped closer until she faced Lucas head-on. You think I don't know that? He's the only reason any asterisk of us have a chance at stopping what's coming next. Lucas stared at her. What is asterisk coming next? Marcus spoke for the first time in minutes. A second wave. Executives froze. Lucas whispered, a second crash. Marcus turned to him, eyes steady. A manufactured one, much bigger than the first. Sarah nodded. We need to get ahead of it, and he's the only one who understands the architecture of the manipulation. Lucas exhaled sharply. No, no, you're not dragging him off to some interrogation room while my company collapses. Sarah let out a slow breath. This isn't an arrest. Executives blinked. Lucas frowned. So what is it? A request, Sarah said carefully, from the government for his help. Marcus finally turned fully toward Sarah. And why should I help you again? She hesitated, and for the first time her voice softened. Because people will get hurt if you don't. Marcus's gaze lowered briefly. Because that was his flaw, his burden, his curse. He cared. Lucas saw the shift in Marcus's posture. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough. Sarah extended a folder. Your old clearance, reinstated temporarily, and protection. Marcus didn't take it. Lucas stepped forward. Wait. Marcus looked at him, surprised. Lucas swallowed hard, choosing his words with difficulty. You said my firm is being used as a channel. If someone is attacking us from inside, I want to know who. Marcus watched him quietly. Lucas said lower. And I want you here to stop it. Sarah tensed. That's not the protocol. Lucas snapped, I don't care about protocol. He turned to Marcus again. You saved us once, help me protect what's left. The room stared. A billionaire, famous for ego, control, and ruthless independence, was asking a janitor for help. Asking him, not ordering. Marcus studied Lucas long enough to make the billionaire uncomfortable. Then finally, I'll stay for now. Sarah exhaled, disappointed but understanding. Lucas looked relieved, more relieved than he wanted to admit. Marcus turned toward the screens again. The second wave will target the derivatives engine. Executives murmured anxiously. Lucas stepped closer. What do we do? Marcus answered simply. We find the person who triggered the first wave. Sarah nodded. And I already have a suspect. Lucas asked who. Sarah looked at Marcus. And Marcus said the name quietly. Someone Lucas trusted. Someone high-ranking. Someone inside these walls. A betrayal waiting to explode. And when Marcus spoke that name, the room went dead silent. Because the traitor wasn't just anyone. It was someone Lucas never thought would turn against him. The name Marcus spoke hung in the air like a blade. Lucas repeated it, barely audible. Ethan. Executives exchanged horrified looks. Sarah nodded slowly. Ethan Mercer, your senior financial strategist, one of the only people with both access and technical ability to execute a coordinated manipulation. Lucas staggered back a step, as if the ground shifted beneath him. No, he whispered, Ethan has been with me for 8 years. He's loyal. He's like family. Marcus's eyes softened with the kind of empathy only people who have seen betrayal up close can offer. Loyalty breaks quietly, he said, and greed whispers before it shouts. Lucas shook his head violently. I don't believe this. Show me proof. Sarah opened a folder, pulling out a series of printed transaction logs, each marked with red highlights. These were flagged last month, she said, but hidden under layers of synthetic trades. He concealed them well, almost too well. That's how I knew it was an insider with expert access. Lucas grabbed the papers, scanning quickly, though he understood only fragments. Marcus stepped beside him. Look at the timing, he murmured. Every transaction is positioned to trigger just minutes before major volatility waves. Lucas's eyes widened. You're telling me he planned this weeks in advance? He architected it, Sarah corrected. Executives were whispering rapidly now, panic rising again. Lucas slammed the folder shut. Where is he? On his way here, Sarah said. I called him. He thinks he's coming to assist with crisis recovery. Lucas froze. You brought him here, into this room. She met his eyes. If he realizes we're onto him, he'll vanish. He needs to walk into the trap believing he's safe. Marcus spoke quietly. He's not the kind of man who runs unless he's cornered. Lucas stared at Marcus. You know him? Marcus paused. I've studied the patterns of men like him my whole life. Sarah added, and you worked under one. Marcus's eyes darkened for a brief moment, like a memory he'd buried clawed at the surface. Before Lucas could speak again, the door swung open. Ethan stepped inside. Calm, confident, polished. Like a man stepping into a board meeting, not a battlefield. Sorry I'm late, he said smoothly. I was coordinating with our European desks. Executives stared at him with thinly veiled terror. Lucas inhaled sharply, fighting to hide the storm inside him. Ethan scanned the room. What's going on, and why is Treasury here? Sarah stepped forward. Ethan Mercer, we have questions about your activity during the overnight volatility. Ethan blinked in confusion, genuine confusion. Or the perfect performance of it. My activity, he repeated. I was home, sleeping. What exactly is this? Lucas stepped forward, face tight. You triggered the wave. A beat of silence. Then Ethan laughed. A short, cold laugh that didn't touch his eyes. Triggered what? Lucas, you can't be serious. Marcus stepped closer, not menacingly, but with presence that felt unshakably firm. You created a synthetic shadow position network. Small trades, hidden execution windows, patterned perfectly to trigger a liquidity fracture in the Asian markets. Ethan stopped smiling. That's absurd. Sarah extended the folder toward him. These logs say otherwise. Ethan didn't take it. His jaw tightened. You think I caused this, after everything I've done for this firm? Lucas whispered sharply. You almost destroyed it. Ethan's expression cracked, rage flickering through his composure. So this is it, he said. You believe the janitor over me. His voice was thick with disdain. Marcus didn't react. Ethan turned to Lucas. You're actually listening to him? A nobody, a floor cleaner. Lucas stepped forward, voice low and trembling. He saved billions, you nearly cost them. Ethan's face contorted. I built this firm with you, I bled for it. You think I'd sabotage that? Sarah interjected. You didn't do this out of hatred, Mr. Mercer. You did it because someone paid you. A tremor passed through Ethan's face, a small one but enough. Lucas whispered, Who bought you? Ethan's nostrils flared. You don't know the pressure I've been under, he snapped. The expectations, the constant demands, you never appreciated me. And you think burning the company down fixes that? Lucas shot back. You think destroying livelihoods, families, makes you whole. Ethan's eyes glistened with a bitter fury. You never treated me like a partner. I was always the number two, always the shadow, never the face of this empire. Marcus spoke quietly. So you took revenge. Ethan turned on him sharply. You keep your mouth shut. But Marcus didn't. You were used, he said, by people far smarter and far more ruthless than you. They dangled a payout, a promise, maybe a threat, and you took the bait. Ethan's face paled, just slightly. Sarah stepped in front of him. Tell us who. A tense silence filled the room. Ethan's hands trembled. His breathing hitched. Then suddenly, he bolted. He sprinted toward the hallway, shoving an executive aside. Stop him, Sarah yelled. Marcus moved first. Not with force, but with speed born of instinct. He stepped in front of Ethan, blocking the doorway with surprising calm. Ethan skidded to a halt. Move, he snarled. Marcus only looked at him. No anger. No fear. Just a deep, heavy disappointment. You're better than this, he said softly. Ethan lunged. Lucas shouted, Marcus. But Marcus didn't strike him. Didn't defend himself with fists. He simply sidestepped, catching Ethan's shoulder and redirecting his momentum, guiding him gently but firmly to the ground. Ethan collapsed, breath ragged, rage dissolving into something far uglier. Despair. Sarah moved in quickly, securing him. Ethan didn't resist anymore. He just whispered, They promised me freedom. Lucas knelt beside him. Freedom from what? Ethan's lips quivered. Debt, leverage, threats. They had everything on me, every mistake, every weakness. Lucas whispered, Who? Ethan finally looked up. Blackridge Capital. Executives gasped. Sarah's eyes narrowed with dread. They're known for aggressive takeovers, she said, but this is beyond illegal. Marcus exhaled slowly. They used Ethan's position to destabilize your firm. Then they planned to swoop in during the second collapse and absorb your assets at a fraction of their value. Lucas felt sick. You were a pawn. Ethan's voice trembled. And I played the part. Marcus crouched down beside him. You can fix this, he said gently. Testify, provide the data trail, help us stop the second wave. Ethan's eyes flickered with something. Not hope. Not redemption. Relief. Will it matter? He whispered. Marcus nodded. Yes. Sarah added. It's your only way out. Ethan closed his eyes. I'll talk. Lucas stood, breathing shakily. Sarah looked at Marcus. What's our next move? Marcus rose slowly. We stop Blackridge. How? Lucas asked. They're 10 times our size. Marcus turned to the main screens. By beating them to their own attack point. They need the second wave to execute their takeover. If we intercept their trigger, we collapse their strategy. Sarah frowned. You know where the trigger is. Marcus nodded. I've been tracing it all morning. Lucas stepped closer. Where? Marcus's answer made the room go silent. Inside this building. Executives stiffened. Sarah's hand drifted subtly toward her badge. Lucas felt cold. Where exactly? He whispered. Marcus pointed to the floor. Sublevel 3, the old derivative server chamber you thought was decommissioned. Lucas's eyes widened. That room hasn't been touched in years. Which makes it the perfect place, Marcus said, to hide a trigger node. Sarah nodded. If he's right, we need to move now. Marcus turned to her. You need to get Ethan processed and protected. He's the only living proof linking Blackridge to this attack. Sarah hesitated. And you? Marcus looked at Lucas. I go down there. Lucas swallowed hard. You're going into a server chamber rigged by people who crippled half a continent this morning. Marcus nodded. Someone has to disarm it before the second wave hits. Lucas stared at him. You don't owe us this. Marcus's voice softened. I owe myself the chance to stop the kind of people who ruined my life. Lucas felt something shift in him, something deep. Respect. Regret. Gratitude. Then I'm going with you. Sarah's voice sharpened instantly. No, absolutely not. He's not trained for. But Lucas cut her off. That man saved my company twice today. I'm not letting him walk into danger alone. Marcus didn't speak at first. Then finally, fine, but stay behind me. Lucas managed a thin, shaky smile. Deal. They headed toward the elevator. Two men who began their day as strangers, and were now walking into danger side by side. The doors closed behind them, and as the elevator began its descent into the depths of the building, Lucas whispered the question that had been growing inside him since dawn. Marcus, why did they take everything from you? Marcus looked ahead at the elevator doors. His voice was quiet. Because I exposed the wrong people. Lucas asked softly, and why are you helping me now? Marcus finally looked at him. Because you're trying to protect something worth saving. The elevator stopped. The doors slid open. Darkness waited beneath the building. And Marcus stepped out first, ready to face the ghosts that had once destroyed his life, and stop the second wave that could destroy millions more. The sublevel corridor smelled of dust and old electronics. Dim emergency lights flickered along the walls. Marcus led Lucas close behind, Sarah keeping watch at their side. The air was thick, tension taut like a violin string stretched to its breaking point. Marcus paused at the heavy steel door of the old derivatives chamber. This is it, he whispered. Lucas could feel the weight in his tone, not just from the metal door, but from the years of secrets it held. Marcus carefully inspected the locking mechanism. Ethan set multiple failsafes, he explained. Most would trip immediately, but I've anticipated every pattern he could use. We just need precision. Lucas swallowed hard. You mean if you make one wrong move? Marcus nodded. The second wave executes automatically. Sarah's eyes darted across the console screens, glowing faintly in the dark. Time is critical, she said. Marcus gave a curt nod, gesturing for her to stay back. He knelt at the floor console and began entering a series of sequences. Numbers, codes, timing intervals, each key pressed with deliberate rhythm. Lucas watched, heart pounding. The tension in the air pressed against his chest like invisible hands. From the shadows, Ethan's restrained form shifted. You can't stop it, he hissed. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Marcus didn't flinch. You were a pawn, and pawns can be removed. Ethan laughed bitterly. You think I betrayed for greed? You don't understand power. Lucas stepped forward. You nearly destroyed everything. Families, jobs, people's lives, and you call that power. Ethan's smirk faltered as he glanced at Marcus. The calm, unwavering presence of the janitor, now a man of knowledge and authority, made him hesitate. For the first time, the illusion of control slipped from his hands. Marcus pressed another sequence. A subtle hum ran through the server racks. He didn't look up. He didn't speak. He simply worked with the calm inevitability of someone who'd faced a storm before. Lucas could almost feel the seconds bleeding into minutes. Every monitor, every server node, every hidden trigger, Marcus seemed to sense it all. The air grew hotter as the old machinery whined under the stress. Sarah whispered from behind. 3 minutes until the second wave triggers automatically. Marcus didn't flinch. He typed faster methodically. Stay calm, he murmured. Panic is exactly what Ethan wants. Ethan shifted in his restraints. Do you think you can undo what's already been done? Marcus finally glanced at him, voice cold and precise. Not undo, prevent. You can't undo what was placed in motion, but you can stop it from hitting the innocent. The seconds ticked down like a heartbeat. Lucas felt every pulse in his chest echo the urgency. Sarah's fingers hovered over her radio, ready to call reinforcements if Marcus failed. Then a faint click. The first fail-safe disengaged. Marcus didn't pause. He continued entering sequences, his eyes scanning for anomalies. Lucas watched, astonished, as a man who had once been invisible to the world now carried the weight of it on his shoulders and bore it with grace. Ethan's voice broke the tension again. You think you're a hero. You're just a janitor with numbers in his head. Marcus turned, calm but resolute. Numbers aren't magic. Discipline, foresight, and understanding patterns, that's what makes a difference. Lucas felt a chill. This man, who had once been dismissed, humiliated, and erased from society, now held life itself in his hands. Another click. Second failsafe bypassed. The air in the chamber vibrated subtly. Lucas whispered, "Marcus, is it done?" Marcus didn't answer. He remained focused, moving to the final console. Every keystroke felt deliberate, deliberate as a heartbeat, deliberate as a life. The countdown on the monitors approached 0. Sarah's voice was barely audible. 30 seconds. Ethan's bravado faltered. He looked around, suddenly unsure. You think you can stop this?" Marcus stopped typing. He straightened, eyes locking on Ethan. "This is not about me. It's about what's right. You had the choice to act responsibly, and you didn't. Now I have the responsibility to stop what you started." Lucas's hands clenched into fists. He felt the tension, the sheer pressure of watching a man undo destruction that could have affected millions. The countdown hit 5. Marcus entered the final code. 4, 3, 2, 1. The hum of the servers changed subtly. A flash of light from the monitors signaled the final confirmation. Stability restored. Second wave prevented. The room exhaled collectively. Even Ethan went still, stunned into silence. Marcus stepped back. He didn't celebrate. He didn't gloat. He simply looked at the monitors one last time. Then he turned to Lucas. "It's over for now." Lucas could hardly speak. "Marcus, you just saved the company again." Marcus shook his head, almost bitterly. "I didn't save the company. I just stopped someone from destroying it. The real saving comes from you and your decisions from now on." Sarah stepped forward, taking Ethan into custody. "You'll answer for your actions," she said firmly. Ethan looked at Marcus with a mixture of fear and resentment. "You could have been like me," he hissed. "Why not take power when it was offered?" Marcus met his gaze evenly. "Because power without conscience is nothing. I learned that the hard way." Lucas stepped closer, voice filled with awe and humility. "Marcus, I don't even know what to say." Marcus gave a small, faint smile. "You don't have to say anything. Just remember what you learned today." Lucas nodded slowly, eyes lingering on the man who had been invisible, dismissed, and mocked, yet had become the savior of everything Lucas held dear. The three of them walked back toward the elevators. The fluorescent lights felt warmer now, as if the building itself acknowledged the gravity of what had just passed. In the elevator, Lucas finally spoke, voice low. "Marcus, why help me, after everything they took from you?" Marcus's eyes softened, almost reflective. "Because someone has to stand for what's right, even when no one is watching. Because if we don't, who will?" Lucas swallowed hard. "I judged you this morning, mocked you, humiliated you." Marcus's gaze met his. "And yet I didn't judge you. People make mistakes. What matters is what you do after." Lucas exhaled slowly. "I've spent my life thinking power was everything, control, domination. Today I learned it's not power that matters. It's integrity, courage, responsibility." Marcus nodded once. Then the lesson wasn't wasted. Back on the top floor, Lucas convened his board and Sarah debriefed them. Executives now regarded Marcus not as a janitor, but as a force of intellect and moral clarity. Whispers of awe and respect rippled through the room. Lucas approached Marcus privately. "You'll be more than just a janitor from now on. Your position, your skills, they belong where they're needed. I want you to stay, help me rebuild what almost collapsed today." Marcus hesitated. He looked down, thoughtful, then up, meeting Lucas's gaze. "I'll help, but only if we remember the cost of complacency, and only if we never forget the people this protects." Lucas nodded solemnly. "Agreed." The day ended not with celebration, but with quiet reflection. The city outside continued unaware, markets stabilized, and the building hummed softly, like a heart restored after a dangerous arrhythmia. Marcus returned to his mop, not out of humility, but because he chose the balance between visibility and substance. Lucas returned to his office, forever changed. Sarah departed, knowing the world had been a fraction safer thanks to one man no one ever saw coming. And in the corridors of Harrington Global, a new understanding lingered. Power isn't in titles, suits, or wealth. It's in wisdom, integrity, courage. And sometimes, the most unlikely person carries it. Lucas watched Marcus quietly, realizing he had underestimated the janitor. Not just underestimated him, he had learned from him. And in that lesson, the company, and perhaps Lucas himself, was reborn. Power is not measured by wealth, status, or the number of people who bow to you. True power is quiet. It is integrity. It is courage in the face of injustice. It is the ability to act rightly when no one is watching and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Marcus Hill, once dismissed as a janitor, once mocked and humiliated, showed that dignity, knowledge, and morality can exist in the most unlikely places. He reminded the world, and Lucas Harrington, that a person's worth cannot be judged by their title or their appearance. The ones we underestimate often carry the weight of truth and the keys to salvation. Lucas learned a painful but profound lesson. Arrogance blinds us. When he mocked Marcus, he thought he held all the power. But it was Marcus who held the true measure of strength. The lesson is clear. Humility and respect are not signs of weakness. They are the foundation of wisdom and leadership. Ethan Mercer's fall also carries a lesson. Greed and ambition without conscience can destroy everything. Talent without integrity is dangerous. True success is not about being clever enough to manipulate systems or people. It is about using your gifts responsibly, protecting the innocent, and doing what is right even when it is hard. This story teaches us that justice is not always immediate, and redemption is not always easy. But integrity, vigilance, and courage have a way of prevailing. The smallest, most overlooked people can become the greatest heroes. The most humble acts can save lives, companies, even entire markets. And in a world where assumptions are made too quickly, where judgment is often based on appearances, the truth is simple. Never underestimate someone. Never dismiss a quiet strength. Never overlook the power of knowledge tempered with empathy. If this story touched you, remember, your actions matter. Stand up for what is right. Respect those around you regardless of their station in life. And remember that sometimes salvation comes from the person you never expected. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs to see it. Like, comment, and subscribe to discover more stories that reveal the extraordinary courage, wisdom, and humanity hidden in everyday people. Because in every shadow, there can be a hero waiting to emerge.